Singapore will close 4 vaccination centres by the end of September as more people are fully jabbed. Yale NUS will stop accepting new students as part of NUS's plans for a new liberal arts college. And Singapore will use sniffer dogs to detect wildlife and wildlife products at border checkpoints. You're watching The Big Story, coming to you live from the Straits Times newsroom. I'm Olivia Quay. You can subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you never miss a single episode. Well, business as usual at Toa Payoh and Punggol bus interchanges this afternoon, even as they were classified as COVID-19 clusters yesterday and put under investigation. Bus drivers, cleaners and F&B staff, though, were concerned about the active clusters. When the Straits Times was there earlier today, Toa Payoh bus interchange was crowded during lunch. Eateries in the indoor and air-conditioned interchange were packed, and many, including drivers, were seen buying takeaway food. Well, over in Punggol, the usual crowd of commuters went about their day as bus services carried on uninterrupted, but its canteen was closed for cleaning. The Health Ministry will close 4 vaccination centres by the end of September, instead moving vaccination operations to regular healthcare providers, public health preparedness clinics, as well as mobile and home vaccination teams. Well, here are the 4 affected centres. New bookings will stop for Marsiling Community Club and Kolam Ayer Community Club from September the 2nd, Bukit Timah Community Club and Yuhua Community Club from September the 9th. Now, there will still be 33 vaccination centres, and the number of PHPCs administering jabs will increase to more than 80 next month, up from the 65 clinics today. Well, this move comes as Singapore's vaccination rate remains on track to get 80% of the population fully jabbed by the end of this month. As at 2 days ago, August the 25th, over 4,270,000 people here are fully vaccinated against COVID-19 under the National Vaccination Programme, including those who have gotten jabs recognized in the WHO's emergency use listing. 79% of the population have completed the full regimen. For the 2 oldest age groups among seniors 70 and older, 83% have gotten both doses. 89% of those 60 to 69 years old are also fully vaccinated. And as of yesterday, 24 COVID-19 patients are seriously ill, with 7 in ICU and most of them unvaccinated. 3 are 70 years old and above, and another 3 are in the 60 to 69 age bracket. Well, let's talk about trends we've been seeing in the past week with Professor Dale Fisher, Senior Consultant at NUH's Division of Infectious Diseases. Welcome back to the show, Professor. So, locally transmitted cases in the hundreds again since August the 24th, and this comes after downward trending numbers since July the 30th. Plus, new clusters are popping up with double, triple-digit cases. So, to what extent is the rise owed to the easing of measures?
Thanks, Olivia. It's absolutely associated with the easing of measures, and it's something we have to get used to. It's something we have to get, I guess, desensitized to. We've been so concerned up till now that case numbers mean more case numbers, and if there's more case numbers, there's more people going to hospital, more sickness, risk of death, this sort of thing. But now that we've got so many people vaccinated, this is exactly the strategy. You have to be a bit more thick-skinned, I guess, when it comes to seeing the case numbers, because they will go up. This is inevitable because we're easing the restrictions. But the theory and the expectation is that the vaccine will now protect us, and that's what we're seeing overseas and indeed in Singapore, that vaccinated people are by and large very safe from serious illness. So the case numbers are going to continue to matter less.
Well, on the topic of vaccines and vaccinations, for 5 days between August the 20th and the 24th, the number of people who have received both vaccine doses plateaued at 78%, and finally they ticked up to 79% as at 2 days ago, August the 25th. So, Professor, what might account for such a plateau?
So let's just look at the number a little bit more. So remember that this is the percentage of the total population. Now, if you factor in the under 12s, that's about 10% of the population. So actually 78, 79% is actually closer to 90%. And in fact, of all the population apart from the under the 12s or the under 12s, their rate is between 83 and 89%. So actually, I think you're going to see it plateau because basically we're running out of people to vaccinate, which is a good thing. If you look at the number of people that have had at least one jab, they're just about all over 90% of the eligible population. So that's where we'll be in 3 or 4 weeks. This will go up another sort of 5 or 10% over the next 3 or 4 weeks, and then that number that you're talking about, that 80-something%, it's mostly the children under 12 that obviously aren't eligible yet for vaccination.
Right. Well, at least, we still have one of the world's highest vaccination rates. But Professor, what's the possibility of the increase in local cases hindering the government's border reopening commitments?
Well, you say border opening commitments. Let me just say, I'm certainly not alone, that the social and the economic impact of the restrictions is not small. Let's think about birthdays, weddings, religious, cultural events, the MICE events, even quarantining people so that they can't work, the impediment to travel. These have all got a huge bearing on our life, and everybody wants to see these removed. So now that we've got such a good level of vaccination, we can start easing these. The only reason to stop easing the restrictions would be if we just said the vaccine's not doing what we thought it would do. Actually, there's people still getting sick, so we might have to go backwards. We really don't expect that to happen. And the other thing is if just even the small number of unvaccinated people are getting sick and overwhelming the hospitals, then we might have to backtrack a little bit. But I really think the government's strategy is to take this really quite slowly so that we can gauge the impact of easing restrictions. We can moderate as needed, but as long as things are going according to plan, there'll be this graduated, stepwise undoing of all the restrictions and approach towards getting back to normal as much as we can.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Prof. We've been speaking with Professor Dale Fisher, a senior infectious diseases consultant at NUH. Also on the local front, liberal arts institution Yale NUS College will stop accepting new students, with the current freshman intake being its final cohort. This batch will graduate in 2025, and until then, the college will remain open and continue running its academic, co-curricular and research programs. Yale NUS will merge with NUS's University Scholars Program to form a new college, which will open by August next year. When the second stage of the Thomson East Coast Line opens tomorrow, trains will arrive at the new stations every 5 minutes during peak hours and every 9 minutes off-peak. This is up from the current frequency at the TEL's first 3 stations in Woodlands. The Land Transport Authority will review the frequencies as ridership increases along the line.
Wait there, and rewarding guys.
Good boy.
For the first time, Singapore will deploy sniffer dogs at border checkpoints to detect the smuggling of endangered animals, as well as items like elephant ivory and pangolin scales. The new K9 unit is part of efforts to further clamp down on wildlife smuggling ahead of Singapore's ban on the trade of ivory, which will go into effect next week.
For the first time, we're deploying sniffer dogs, which are specially trained to detect wildlife and wildlife products. Our dogs and their handlers will be deployed at border checkpoints to support our border control agencies to detect wildlife contraband. This will help us to crack down on illegal wildlife smuggling operations and do our part to disrupt the global supply chain of illegally traded wildlife and wildlife products.
Across the causeway, where Malaysia's new government remains largely unchanged, unveiling his cabinet today, newly minted Prime Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob keeping several senior ministers in the same portfolios as the previous administration. He also left the deputy premiership post empty, which his predecessor Muhyiddin Yassin did as well. So, in this cabinet, Zafrul Aziz has been retained as finance minister. Same goes for Defence Minister Hishamuddin Hussein, Home Affairs Minister Hamza Zainuddin and Education Minister Radzi Jedin. Former Science, Technology and Innovation Minister Kari Jamaluddin will be helming the Ministry of Health. Overall, there are 31 ministers and 38 deputies in the new cabinet, with Mr. Ismail's own party UMNO dominating. Well, ST's Malaysia correspondent tells what this lineup means for Mr. Ismail's priorities.
I think there will definitely be criticism about the size of the cabinet, but I think it also shows again the fragility of leading this government with such a small majority. It's an attempt, I think, in the first week of his premiership, we have seen his attempt to keep sort of everyone happy. He's come out with the right messaging. He's met the opposition leaders. He has, I think he's come to some sort of agreement with them, which is something Mr. Muhyiddin did not do, or did not manage to achieve at least. But it also shows that he wants to keep the people in his coalition happy at the same time.
Well, Singapore has strongly condemned the deadly bombings outside Kabul airport that killed dozens and injured hundreds. The Foreign Affairs Ministry saying in a statement, quote, "These acts of violence are deplorable and cannot be justified." An ISIS affiliate, Islamic State Khorasan, claimed responsibility for the bombings. Meanwhile, evacuations from Kabul are continuing, with US forces rushing to complete their withdrawal by the August 31st deadline set by President Joe Biden. Mr. Biden has vowed to take revenge on the attackers, saying he would hunt them down.
To those who carried out this attack, as well as anyone who wishes America harm, know this: we will not forgive. We will not forget. We will hunt you down and make you pay.
Well, back home on Sunday night, Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong will be delivering his National Day rally speech, seen as the most important political speech every year. Well, we'll be airing PM Lee's English address live from 8 p.m. on the Straits Times' Facebook and YouTube platforms, and this will be followed by a discussion with our senior political correspondent Grace Ho, who will explain what the key announcements mean for you. Well, for more news and videos, visit straitstimes.com. I'm Olivia Quay. See you next week on The Big Story. Have a good weekend.